I am so glad that the rogue mod. First thing I'd like to say is I am so glad that I got the rogue mod situation figured out last week. It is officially done. It officially is over. That problem is now done for. I don't have to worry about that anymore. At least I hope I don't ever have to. Well, and Taylor, hi. I don't know. I can't remember if you were ever a mod on my channel, um, but you should have no problem typing in comments and not being timed out by anybody because I don't have very many mods on my mods at the moment because I had to basically reset all my mods. I had to reset all my mods. I had to make sure I got rid of all my mods last week because I had a rogue mod situation for a while now and I needed to get it fixed and I wasn't sure and I didn't know how to do it. I was finally able to find out where I was supposed to be able to fix the problem and now it's been fixed. And so hopefully I don't have to worry about this happening again for a very long time. But I want to thank everybody for coming. Well, and everybody that's going to come eventually, because I'm pretty sure eventually some people are going to be coming. Because I know there are some people that are subscribed to me, and I know there are a bunch of people that are subscribed to me that probably have notifications, that probably have a notification, that probably have clicked the notification bell, which tells you when a person that you're subscribed to on YouTube either goes live or uploads a video. So, um, but yep, I think this is what I'm gonna wind up calling my live streams every time I go live on Saturdays. I think this is what I'm gonna call it, my Wrestling Week in Review podcast. So weird to be saying that because I don't feel anything like most of these other guys that I know that are podcasters who do wrestling stuff. Like, but I just like talking about wrestling. That's what I like to talk about most of the time. And when it comes to wrestling, I can usually talk for like an hour about it if I wanted to. Most of the time on my live streams when I go live specifically for wrestling, I don't always wind up talking the whole time about wrestling because I don't know why. It's just something I don't. Sometimes I get distracted and I want to talk about something else. Well, people on the stream want to talk about something else, and then I'm like, well, okay, we can talk about that, but then I want to get back to wrestling. Okay. But yeah. Well, it is officially draft season. Not just for NFL, but for the WWE. Not just for the NFL, but for the WWE. Now, I totally forgot that the WWE draft was this week. I totally forgotten about that. But to be honest, I don't really care. If I'm not mistaken, it's not on regular cable TV. It's not on regular TV. It's on like the NFL Network. So I probably wasn't gonna be able to watch it anyways. But that's okay. The WWE draft started yesterday, and not surprising, the Bloodline was drafted number 1. But what was interesting about the Bloodline getting drafted to SmackDown, which I knew they were, is that the Usos weren't included. It was just Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman. Now I don't know what that means exactly, but given the fact that Paul Heyman definitely seemed to be putting an extra amount of pressure on the Usos to win back their tag team titles last night, and given the fact that they lost and the fact that they weren't included when the Bloodline was drafted to SmackDown, and the fact that Sami Zayn basically made a point to point that out, Hey, Aaron, I'm gonna make you a mod since you're already since I'm since I trust you as a mod because I know you. But that just gives me the feeling that they really are going all in on this. Yeah, my rogue mod situation is done. My rogue mod situation is gone. Finally. It took me a while to figure out just what to do. Yeah, apparently there's supposed to be a section under settings in the YouTube Studio and YouTube Studio's website that says community. And there you can find who is, and in that, in community, you can look at who is your mod, who are your mods, who are your standard mods, your manager mods, and who's blocked on your channel. And I don't know why, but they don't have that particular setting in the app. They didn't make that particular setting for the app. Because I had the YouTube Studio app for the longest time on my phone. And for some reason, that particular setting isn't there in the app. I don't know why they didn't put it in the app, but apparently I have to actually go onto the website itself, not just the app, to do it, to be able to see who was the mods on my channel, who are the standard manager mods, and who's blocked on my channel. And I had a bunch of people blocked. Now, some of the people that were blocked, that I kept blocked, were people that I knew were fake accounts anyways, that I knew were fake accounts and spam accounts anyways. So those were the only accounts I didn't unblock, especially somebody else, who I don't want to talk about right now. But enough about that. The draft for WWE Draft. Whew, man. I do believe the Usos are definitely going to get. I mean, Roman Reigns, obviously, I think it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. Eventually, we're going to see a moment when Roman Reigns just explodes on the Usos and just gets so pissed that he just throws the Usos out of the bloodline, or at the very least has Solo Sikoa do it, like he was supposed to do to Sami Zayn on the 30th anniversary of Raw, apparently, but before Jay stood up for Sami. We all know what happened. Eventually what happened, obviously. But I think that's what we're getting. I think that's what we're slowly but surely getting to, is an implosion of the bloodline in which the Usos are either excommunicated or eventually realize that Roman Reigns is just using them at the moment. It's just basically just using them, and decide to just walk out before he's able to force them out. Who knows what's going to happen, but that's just the vibe that I'm getting from what happened last night. And also the fact that Roman Reigns, we all know who was calling Paul Heyman, who called Paul Heyman during the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn match, and that was Roman. And then he said to Solo Sikoa to go out there and do his business and do his business, what he's supposed to do. But I'm sure, and immediately as soon as that happened, okay, yeah, and as soon as that happened, as soon as Solo Sikoa went out the room, and I guess made his way to the ring area, I immediately started thinking to myself, oh no, it's happening. WWE is going to screw Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn out of the titles simply because they can't go to Saudi Arabia. And I know that it's been a legit concern on a lot of fans going into this match is, what about Saudi Arabia? What about Night of Champions? Sami Zayn can't go to Saudi Arabia. He's of Syrian descent, and Saudi Arabia hates Syria. Kevin Owens can't go. Now with Kevin Owens, it's not that he can't go, it's he chooses not to. He chooses not to go, and WWE complies with him. I don't know why he doesn't decide to go, but I actually do not think he doesn't. I actually do not believe that the reason he doesn't go to Saudi Arabia is because he can't. I think it's because he just chooses not to. But Sami Zayn, for political reasons, and I don't know why, can't go to Saudi Arabia. And I know that was a legit concern on everybody's minds going into the match. What happens if Sami Zayn, if WWE determines that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens will not be able to defend their titles at Saudi Arabia? Knowing at Night of Champions, it's basically a night where every championship has to be defended. It's the only pay-per-view where every title has to be defended, no matter what it is. I'm so glad the 24/7 title isn't being used anymore. The last time we had a Night of Champions or Clash of Champions was 2020. And it wasn't that bad of a show. We had Roman Reigns defending his newly won Universal title against Jey Uso in a great match. We had a great ambulance match between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. Cool, Aaron. Oh, Aaron, just so you know, do you still play FIFA Mobile? Do you still play FIFA Mobile? Because you're still technically a member of my league. Hey, Danny. You're still technically a part of my league, Aaron, but I don't even know why I did this or how I did it. I accidentally switched control of my league to somebody else. So I officially made somebody else the owner of the league by mistake. And so I'm no longer the owner. Oh, thanks, Danny. Found this at a Goodwill. I found this at a Goodwill this month. Yeah, but hey, I still every day that I get on, I do a league tournament. I do a league tournament every day, and so sometimes and I use every single member of my league, including you. So so I don't know if you still are getting notifications for that. Since you're a part of my league, I don't know if you get, because I get notifications from FIFA Mobile a lot. Maybe not a whole lot, but enough. But I get notifications a lot. Well, most of the time, either when one of my league tournaments is about to end, or when it's starting. Oh, hey, Danny. The WWE draft was last night. How are you feeling going into it so far? Because I'm not gonna lie, there were some picks that I thought that definitely surprised me a bit. Then there were some picks that didn't surprise me at all, like the Bloodline getting drafted to SmackDown. I knew that was happening. There was no way we weren't gonna get Roman Reigns on Raw. Hey, King Patriot, I'm just gonna add you as a mod because I know you. And Danny, I'm just gonna have you as the one mod. I think that's your main channel, Danny Staten. At least the main channel that I know you for, on Matt's channel. I'm just gonna have you as the mod on that channel, just so you know. And I'm just gonna say it. Cody Rhodes staying on Raw was a bit of a surprise, considering that we I pretty much guarantee a rematch between him and Roman Reigns this year. And I just want to address the so-called rumor that started going around yesterday that WWE was planning, it was on the table. Now get this. Apparently WWE, in the back of its mind, is thinking, why not have the Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes rematch at next year's WrestleMania? Are you kidding me? Do you really think you're going to be able to keep Cody Rhodes as hot as he is right now for an entire year, have him possibly win the Royal Rumble match next year, perhaps maybe from the number one position? Hey, Jason! Yes, I'm glad you're back. I am glad you're back. My rogue mod situation is yeah, we do not need that. We do not need that. Yes, I can see you now. I had a rogue mod. Jason, I just want you to know it was not me that blocked you. It was somebody else. It was a rogue mod on my channel. I officially, as of last week, was able to find out where you can go to look and see who all your mods are, all your standard manager mods, and who's blocked. And I was able to unblock everybody, and I also unmodded everybody that was a mod on my channel, and I started completely from scratch. Yeah, but it's okay. It's officially done. I'm officially starting over, basically. And I'm only gonna mod the people on this channel that I personally know. Oh, thanks, Jason. I was worried when I didn't see certain people that I usually saw, that I usually would see, like you and Aaron and stuff. I think what happened was I had made the rogue mod. Apparently, I'd made him a manager mod. At some point, I made him like a manager mod, and then I think that was the problem, because manager mods, and in addition to timing out people that aren't even mods on your channel, they can also apparently time out just standard mods. And so I think that's the problem. That was the problem, because for a while I kept trying to make people mods on my channel, and yet they were still getting timed out. So immediately I started thinking, oh, okay, something is telling me that what I'm dealing with is like, I've got a guy that's a manager mod on my channel. So I had to make sure, and eventually, with the help of some people, some very great people, I was finally able to figure out all this and get it all sorted out. So I'm glad I got that. I know, oh, okay. Okay, Danny. I actually am kind of, I don't know. I mean, well, when it comes to like a group, well, I know, Danny, I'm subscribed to your channel. Well, Jason, when it comes to the bloodline, there should be absolutely no question. They are all getting drafted together. I mean, why would you split up the bloodline? That is literally the only faction, the only group where I know it's pretty much a guarantee that they're going to be drafted together. That's literally the only group where I am legit 100% certain you can't split them up, because it makes no sense, because it would make no sense. Now, the Usos weren't drafted alongside Heyman, Roman, and Solo, which obviously opens the door for a whole slew of possibilities because of the added pressure that they felt last night going into the WrestleMania rematch. Obviously, we know Roman Reigns ain't going to be happy that they lost again. Well, either that or they'll get drafted to SmackDown, but then eventually we'll just see just an implosion, which I've been predicting is going to happen eventually. It's going to happen. It has to. That has to be where we're going, the direction we're going. Well, when you talk about the Bloodline, they are sort of a package deal. And knowing Paul Heyman's negotiating skills, he probably made sure that he, Solo, and Roman were drafted together as a package deal. I don't think Paul Heyman would have accepted anything less. So now that I'm thinking about it, Paul Heyman definitely knows how to work a deal. Yeah, I mean that it's obvious where we're going is potentially down the line an implosion of the Bloodline in which either the Usos realize what Sami Zayn has been saying all this time is true, and they just step away from the Bloodline, or eventually Roman will have had it and will go full on nuclear on Jimmy and Jay and just excommunicate them and force Solo Sikoa to do it for him, because obviously he can't have his hands dirty, so he'll just have their brother do it. It was called they called it the Ocean of Obscurity. I can't even remember what they called it, and it was just last night. I can't even remember what they called it. It was last night. But I think it was the Ocean of Obscurity. Oh man, yeah, there were some. Aside from the Bloodline, I mean, Cody Rhodes being drafted to Raw was kind of surprising, considering that supposedly. Yeah. But then again, you're older than me. I'm not going to get into that. I immediately started thinking to myself, yeah, probably don't want to get into the thing of when you get older, the mind is always the first thing to go. No, Jason, this is what I feel like is going to happen. Because, yes, I know I expected Cody Rhodes to maybe be drafted to SmackDown to keep the Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes feud. Even if it's not continuing within the next month or so after Backlash, at least make it so that it's viable to happen. But, I mean, there has been some rumors that there has been some rumors coming out of SmackDown that potentially Cody Rhodes could win Money in the Bank. Ah, yes. Yeah, Aaron. Yeah. Oh, Jason. Huh. Wait till you hear this. Apparently there's a fake Andreas Nebus account that started commenting the Skull WWE. He did a live stream of the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony the night before WrestleMania Night 1 on Friday, and apparently, eventually. And I left a comment on after the live stream was over, and eventually person pretending to be Andreas Nieblus left a comment, replied to my comment, and I don't know who it is, but when he left his comment, it was the exact same day that Andreas had switched the name of his channel from King of Spelling Bee to, I think it was like Liverpool fan Andreas Nieblus, or something very similar to that. And this Andreas Nieblus account had the exact same name. And it was only like a day after, and it was pretty much the day after. It was either on like a Saturday or a Monday, because it was the day after one of Matt's live streams. And I thought to myself, okay, who no, that was I think the real Andreas. That was, I think, the real Andreas Nieblus. Yeah, I do believe that was him, but I do have a sneaky suspicion as to who the fake account is. And you will not even hesitate to agree with me, and you won't be surprised at all. I think it's Moxley. Because I know for a fact he has made fake accounts of certain people on Matt's channel. He has impersonated other people on Matt's channel before by making fake accounts of theirs. But enough about that. I don't want to talk about Moxley. I don't want to talk about that weasel. But yeah, what I was saying before Aaron talked about the Andreas thing, the fake Andreas account thing, was that Cody Rhodes, what WWE could do if the plan is still for Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes to face again one-on-one this year, particularly at SummerSlam, which would be the best opportunity, because it will probably be the second biggest show of the year for WWE, and it would be the perfect opportunity for them to finally put an end to the Bloodline, because it will officially commemorate 3 years. Because at SummerSlam this year, it will be 3 years to the day since Roman Reigns made his return in 2020 because we all know what happened. Roman Reigns was supposed to challenge Goldberg for the Universal title at WrestleMania 36. Roman Reigns bowed out of WrestleMania 36 due to COVID concerns. I don't think he actually got COVID. I think he was just worried about getting it. So he just decided, I'm not going to take the chance. I'm just going to bow out. We obviously got Braun Strowman instead, winning the title in a short match, which was obviously the best decision. And then Roman was gone for a few months, and then at SummerSlam 2020, after the Braun Strowman versus Fiend match for the Universal title, in which the Fiend won back his Universal title, Roman Reigns came back, and then about a week later, we got the triple threat match between, obviously, Braun Strowman, the Fiend, and Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns, in which I think it was the Fiend that Roman Reigns pinned in that match, but I can't remember. It's been so long. Yeah, I know. But that's legitimately what they could do. Is they could take it and they could have him lose it at the exact same event where he returned and basically challenged for that belt, for the Universal Championship. So, and what I was going to say is that Cody Rhodes could win the Money in the Bank briefcase this year. Now, I'm not even gonna lie. I had already heard the rumors earlier this year, like even before WrestleMania, that WWE already had a top candidate penciled in for the Money in the Bank briefcase this year, and that was actually LA Knight. And I'm not gonna lie, I would love to see him as Money in the Bank, as Mr. Money in the Bank, going over to Raw, potentially having a match for the new World Heavyweight Championship. That depends on where he goes. I could see him going to SmackDown, staying on SmackDown. I could see him going to Raw. Yeah, that was ridiculous. It accomplished nothing. It only proved that Vince McMahon can't book WWE worth shit anymore. I'm sorry to have to say that S word, but I had to say it. But Vince McMahon can't book WWE anymore. He is out of touch. He clearly doesn't know. I mean, the new World Heavyweight Championship, I do not believe that is a Vince McMahon idea. I do not think, under any circumstances, Vince McMahon would ever allow another championship onto his show when we've already got two perfectly good world championships on Roman Reigns' shoulders. Like, come on. Raw needs a main event champion. Granted, they have done an amazing job at making the U.S. Championship feel important. When Bobby Lashley won it from Theory at Money in the Bank last year, his reign as U.S. champion was not bad. He was booked. He had some good matches against some good talent, like I think it was Tommaso Ciampa. Of course, he had the rematch against Theory at SummerSlam, which was a squash match, which obviously needed to happen. I think there needed to be no doubt that Bobby Lashley was the new U.S. champion. So he needed to squash Theory and make it seem like it was no question as to who the new United States champion was. He can face Tommaso Ciampa, AJ Styles. I can't remember who else he faced, but I know he eventually faced Seth Rollins, and eventually Seth Rollins would win the title. And then he would go on to have a nice little reign. And then Austin Theory would go on to win the title again and would go on to have a much better reign this time around. When it comes to the new title, I think the number one contender should be Seth, because it should be a no-brainer. It's Seth Rollins. He is basically the number one guy on Raw right now, next to Cody Rhodes. Next to Cody Rhodes, who's the next best guy? Seth Rollins. And when you think about it, Seth Rollins basically teased the hell out of us, basically teased that he was going after the title on Monday night when he basically talked a lot. He talked a lot about it, and he also decided to take a little bit of a shot at Roman Reigns by saying that this new title will be about more than just politics and part-time champions, which we all know what that was a shot at. I mean, he could have been talking about Brock Lesnar, but Seth's feud with Brock Lesnar was never personal. It was always personal when it came to Roman Reigns. So immediately as soon as I heard him say what he said those exact words, I thought, he's talking about Roman Reigns. I don't think there's any other person he could have been talking about. I mean, who else does he have the most history with? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it was announced that there will be a tournament for that new World Heavyweight Championship, with the finals being in Saudi Arabia and Night of Champions. What I do believe will happen I do believe we will get Cody Rhodes in that tournament. Yes, I believe Cody Rhodes will be in the tournament. I believe he will get to the finals. And actually, what I think will happen, and I know some people will say, like, well, maybe he shouldn't be losing. I do believe Cody Rhodes will win at Backlash. I do believe Cody will win at Backlash. He has had his adversity when it comes to Brock Lesnar. Some adversity when it comes to Brock Lesnar. Now I feel like he deserves the win. But I literally do not know. I do not know. I don't know what's going to happen with KO and Sami Zayn. Look, as far as last night goes, I know a lot of people, yeah, you're concerned about that. That's what a lot of people were concerned about. A lot of people were concerned about that going into tonight, going into last night. Like, what's happening with KO and Sami? What happens if they win? They can't go to Sami Zayn can't go to Saudi Arabia because of politics. And if I'm not mistaken, Kevin Owens just flat out refuses to go to Saudi Arabia. No, KO doesn't go to Saudi Arabia either, Jason. I don't know why. I mean, we know why Sami Zayn can't go is because he's Syrian, and for some reason, Saudi Arabia just can't seem to like Syria for some reason. For some reason. I mean, what they could do is they could set up an injury angle. They could set up an injury angle in which Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are deemed not really. I don't know how they do it. Maybe WWE pulls a Hail Mary, and maybe Saudi Arabia, for once in their life, decides to put politics aside and decides to let Sami Zayn and KO defend their titles at Saudi Arabia. But that's a big if, because since when has a government been willing to go against its principles? Just for the sake of a few measly dollars. Yeah, obviously, yeah, I know that. Yeah, and it's also political in a way. But yeah, that's basically it. But on the Seth Rollins Cody Rhodes thing, yes, I do believe Cody Rhodes will be in that tournament for the World Heavyweight Championship. Finn Balor also teased that he might be going for that title, so we might see him in the tournament as well. Yeah. So we might see Finn Balor in that tournament as well. And we could see Cody Rhodes and Finn Balor possibly being a match during the tournament, because they basically teased that Finn Balor could be Cody Rhodes' next opponent coming out of his feud with Brock Lesnar, which I don't know what Brock Lesnar does after Backlash. Maybe he finally does have that, I guess, quote, vacation, or that rest that he said he was going to have after WrestleMania. But clearly he fooled us. But maybe we have that. And I do believe we will get Cody versus Seth in the finals. And I do believe Seth Rollins should be the one to win this time, because it would make, I would not mind that. I would not mind that, Jason. Seth Finn as the new World Heavyweight Champ, Rhea as the SmackDown Women's Champ, and Priest and Dominic became the Tag Team Champs. That would be cool. Or, I mean, yeah, what if Judgment Day eventually do decide, hey, we want these Tag Team Championships? Like, that would be a way to keep the Judgment Day relevant, and just give them, and maybe just make them become the new Bloodline. Just have them hoard all the titles that the Bloodline don't have. Or maybe if Finn Balor doesn't wind up winning the Intercontinental, the World Heavyweight Championship, maybe Finn Balor as IC champion. He's been IC champion twice already. Damian Priest, he's already been a U.S. champion. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, Damian Priest had probably one of the longest reigns as U.S. champion since John Cena's 2015 reign. Because he was champion since from SummerSlam 2021 to I can't remember if it was definitely before SummerSlam. It was before WrestleMania 2022, WrestleMania 38. So that was let's see, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. He was at least U.S. champion for 7 months. That's pretty long reign as U.S. champion. And he brought back the Open Challenge that John Cena made famous, which I thought was cool because he had a bunch of great matches. And so Damian Priest as IC champion would be cool, as well as Finn and Dominic maybe as the tag team champions. I mean, there's a whole slew of possibilities that could happen. But that's only if Judgment Day get drafted to Raw. That's only if Judgment Day get drafted to Raw. That's the only way it would make more sense. Yeah, that could be interesting. Giving them all the titles that the Bloodline don't have, with the exception of the U.S. title, obviously, and just have them run roughshod over Raw, like they've been doing, but more like the Bloodline has been doing with all the titles that they have. Because even Solo Sikoa had a title at one point in the Bloodline, and it was only for a short period, but he was North American champion for at least a week, maybe 2 weeks. Yeah. Okay, back to the draft. That was another thing that was weird to me. The first thing that felt weird to me. I mean, yes, I was kind of disappointed that Cody Rhodes wasn't drafted to SmackDown, but it wasn't the first weird thing that jumped out at me when it came to the draft. This was Bianca Belair got drafted to SmackDown as the Raw Women's Champion. Now it's obvious what they could do. Yeah, that's the obvious thing that they could do. But something Triple H said about this year's draft is that there will be transfers. So apparently there will be people that will be able to transfer from one brand to another, maybe after they've been drafted to that particular brand. So and Jason, it depends on where Judgment Day go. Depends on where Judgment Day goes as to what's going to happen. That basically where Judgment Day, if Judgment Day goes to SmackDown, then that means, okay, what does that mean for Raw? Does Bianca Belair just defend the title, win the match against Io Sky, and then just relinquish the title? Or does Io Sky win the title and then request a transfer over to Raw to get away from Damage Control? And from what we've seen in recent weeks, there is friction between Damage Control. Because there have been times where it seems like Bayley makes decisions for the group without actually asking Dakota Kai and Io Sky what they would like. It just seems like sometimes Bayley speaks for the group and doesn't allow them to have an input in the decision-making process, and that could legitimately be Yeah, that was the second thing. That was the second thing that caught my eye was the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions were drafted to SmackDown. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. Now, granted, I don't know Isla Dawn as much. I've I know Alba Fire since like 2021 when she debuted. I think I'm pretty sure it was either following her match at, it was either following her match at In Your House 2021 against Ember Moon, or it was after her match with Dakota Kai at NXT Takeover 36. I can't remember which one of those pay-per-views she debuted at, but I've seen her since then, and she's great. But if you did watch the draft, if you did watch SmackDown, you did see that they had the Performance Center. They did shoot to the Performance Center where the NXT superstars were all sitting in chairs, waiting patiently, seeing if they would be drafted. If I'm not mistaken, a couple of fans made mention that this was the exact same thing that happened in 2016. This was the exact same way that they had done it in 2016. But I think in 2016 they did it with all the brands. All the brands had their own little section where they were waiting patiently to see who was going to get drafted. And I can't remember who interviewed the tag champs. I think it was like Mackenzie Mitchell, like whoever it is that's the main, I guess, reporter for NXT, interviewer for NXT. But then we saw Katana Chance and Kayden Carter interrupted the interview and told the tag team champs, we want a match for those titles. And so if that match does get booked for NXT this week, then we know who's winning the match, Katana Chance and Kayden Carter. So, I mean, at least that fixes the problem of, okay, what are we going to do with the NXT Women's Tag Team Champs? We're going to have to get the titles off of them. So that would make sense. Yes, they were interviewed, and then Katana Chance and Kayden Carter interrupted, said they wanted a match for the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. More than likely, that will be made official for NXT this week, and they will probably win. Which will basically send Alba Fire and Isla Dawn up to SmackDown. Now, Indy Hartwell, this is where things get dicey, and I'm just going to say it right now. What happened? Yeah, I know, but what's interesting about Bron Breakker is that supposedly we're getting a rematch between Carmelo Hayes and Bron Breakker for the NXT Championship at NXT Battleground, which is set for the weekend of Night of Champions. Of, I think, whichever day it is. Yeah. Oh, and today on SmackDown Lowdown, they announced a bunch of supplemental draft picks. That were like the leftovers from the first night of the draft. And Lacey Evans got drafted to SmackDown. Snooze fest. Hit Row got drafted to SmackDown. Boring. Botch Dollar. And then we got Candice LeRae. Candice LeRae was drafted to Raw. Dexter Lumis was drafted to Raw. And if Johnny Gargano gets drafted to Raw, then it basically just writes itself. We got The Way. The Way is reunited. Minus Austin Theory. Minus Austin Theory, maybe, perhaps. Oh yeah, Eva Marie has been teasing a return recently with a darker persona. I'm like, girl, I don't care how dark you get. You do not belong in WWE. I don't care how dark you get. You don't belong in WWE. Go back to your acting. Go back to your workouts. Go back to your whatever it is you do for a living. But stay away from WWE. I mean, the only good thing. Yeah, I mean, the only good thing that came with her return in 2021 was she brought us Piper Niven. I still have no idea why we got Dewdrop. Why Dewdrop? That was a terrible name. Clearly a Vince McMahon move. Oh, yeah. I've actually been saying this for a while now, but in regards to Piper Niven, I actually could see people comparing her to Nia Jax in a lot of ways. But what I believe separates her from Nia Jax is that she is actually safe in the ring. Piper Niven, to me, looks like a safer, less cringe, less botchy, less injury-prone version of Nia Jax. She doesn't seem to injure her opponents very much at all, even though she's pretty much that same like Nia Jax like size. She's basically a giant, but she definitely does not seem like the kind of person that's gonna legitimately injure someone, whether it's on accident or on purpose. But that's just my opinion. Yeah, we don't need Nia either. No matter how much weight she's lost, and it doesn't matter if she's related to The Rock. It doesn't matter if she's The Rock's cousin, basically. Yeah. Yeah, but Indy Hartwell getting drafted was surprising to me. Now, I know why they probably did it, because obviously, like I said before, Candice LeRae got drafted to Raw today. Dexter got drafted to Raw today. And if Johnny Gargano gets drafted tomorrow, what we could get is a reunion of The Way, which is a big possibility. Yeah, I know. She's stiff in the ring, obviously. That's the one that maybe the word I was looking for. Yeah, but Indy Hartwell was drafted on Monday. If Johnny Gargano is drafted on Monday, we could potentially see a reunion of The Way, minus Austin Theory, obviously, because Austin Theory is a heel now. And I don't think, and right now, Gargano, Loomis, and Ray are all being positioned as like baby faces, I guess. Then it would make sense for Indy Hartwell to come onto the main roster as a baby face and have. Yeah, that could be interesting, and it would be much better than and it would definitely be, I think, a lot better than just having Indy Hartwell debut on her own. I think her and Candice LeRae could definitely go after the women's tag team titles. I mean, Johnny Gargano could be a great opponent for Gunther and the Intercontinental Championship, because Johnny Gargano in NXT was actually booked a lot like that Daniel Bryan type, that ultimate underdog that everybody just immediately just rides off and just says, no, he can't make it, he won't make it. We're going to make it as tough for him as possible, or at least his opponents. We're going to make it as tough for him as possible. But he ultimately always overcame, and almost all of his matches at and almost all of his NXT matches were like certified gold, basically. And hopefully Triple H is able to grab Johnny Gargano by the horns and is able to book him the way we know he can be booked, as that Daniel Bryan type. Obviously, he can't replace Daniel Bryan. No one can replace Daniel Bryan, but that's basically how he was booked in NXT, is that Daniel Bryan type, that ultimate underdog who everybody thinks is never really going to succeed, but eventually proves everybody wrong. And he could be a great opponent for Gunther if they do decide to go with that. Because WWE, Lord knows WWE has done some great, I guess you could say, David versus Goliath like storylines and matches. Now, back to Indy Hartwell. The fact that she was drafted as NXT Women's Champion was surprising to me mainly because of one particular reason. This past Tuesday on NXT, they had their annual Spring Break-In show. They had their Spring Break-In special episode of NXT, and on that show, they booked a triple threat match between Indy Hartwell, Roxanne Perez, and Tiffany Stratton. Now, I don't know if any of you watched that episode of NXT or watched that match. Yeah, I know, we haven't seen him since Mania. But that may have been the reason. They didn't want to overexpose him coming out of Mania. And for those of you who may not know what happened, Indy Hartwell apparently got injured in the match. Because apparently, I didn't see the whole match, but apparently she must have gone to the back at one point and then came back out to finish the match. Retained her title, and now she's getting drafted to Monday Night Raw. So knowing she was going to get drafted, if you knew she was going to get drafted on Friday night, going into that match, it would have been a lot easier for them to just take the title off of her and give it to someone like either Roxanne Perez. Okay, Jason, don't worry. Got him. It's okay. Roxanne Perez could potentially be drafted on Monday night. She could be headed to the main roster, for all we know. And the only other woman in that match was Tiffany Stratton. What I would have done, if I had booked that match, is I would have, if I knew I was going to be drafting, if I knew that she was going to be drafted in the WWE draft and then was going to be a part of that, I would have had her lose the belt, drop it to Tiffany Stratton, because at some point this past week, Tiffany Stratton apparently has gone on record with saying recently that she doesn't feel like she's ready for a main roster call-up. She doesn't feel like she's ready. So with that being said, if you didn't plan on having Tiffany Stratton called up in the draft this year, then why not put the title on her at Spring Break-In and then avoid all of this? The only way it makes sense is if either she goes, because Triple H said that the draft picks, that the draft does not take full effect until after Backlash, which is next week, and so we have at least one more episode of NXT to do before Backlash and before the draft officially takes place. So this week on NXT, the only way Indy Hartwell getting drafted to Monday Night Raw makes any lick of sense is if either she goes to NXT this week and announces that because she got injured in her match against Roxanne Perez and Tiffany Stratton, that she will not be able to, because she got injured, she will have to relinquish the title, which would make sense because Roxanne Perez had to do it after her accident following her title defense against Meiko Satomura. Oh God, no. Or Tiffany Stratton comes out, states, and calls out Indy Hartwell saying that since she wasn't pinned, and if I'm not mistaken, she wasn't pinned in that triple threat match. It was Roxanne Perez. And so she could call out Indy Hartwell and say, hey, I wasn't pinned in that triple threat match last week. I won a one-on-one match against you for that title. And then she drops it to Tiffany Stratton there on that episode. But then if that's the case, and if your plan all along was for Tiffany to win the title, then what was the point of Indy retaining at Spring Break-In if you already knew that your plan was to have her drop the title to Tiffany? That's some serious logic gaps. That need to be filled in, that need to be explained. Because that makes no sense. For her to just simply drop the title a week later to the same person that she faced in a triple threat match for the title, with the title on the line, would make really no sense. But since when has WWE ever made sense? That was it. I mean, as far as night one, that was the last of the draft that really surprised me and really made sense. I mean, the funniest part of the draft, though, was when Damage Control was announced as the newest signings to SmackDown. And I saw Michael Cole's reaction, and boy, do I feel sorry for that man. Oh my God, Michael Cole is going to have nightmares again because Bayley is coming home to SmackDown and to Michael Cole, and boy, am I going to be laughing my ass off now every Friday night because the interactions that those two had during the pandemic era were priceless. It just seemed like Michael Cole had it in for Bayley, but she was a heel at the time. She's still a heel, and she was a heel. So basically, and Michael Cole is basically a face commentator, so he's going to call out the heels for doing what they do. And so, but man, and do you guys remember when Bayley had Michael Cole's name shaved into the back of her head? That was going into the Royal Rumble, 2021 Royal Rumble. And she even said, I think, to Jerry Lawler on commentary that she was going to choose Michael Cole as her WrestleMania opponent if she won. Clearly she didn't, but that was so hilarious. And oh man, I laughed when that happened, that pick was announced, because I knew immediately, oh, Michael Cole is screwed. Oh man. I mean, if that's not Vince McMahon screwing with Michael Cole, saying, hey, you think you can just say whatever you want now that I'm no longer here? Well, then I'm going to have Bayley be her annoying self again and come back to SmackDown and annoy you and annoy the crap out of you again. That was funny. That's gonna be hilarious. That's gonna be hilarious no matter what. Today on SmackDown Lowdown, they had some supplemental draft picks that were, like I said before, Lacey Evans, Snooze Fest got drafted to Raw, Hit Row, Boring get drafted to SmackDown, Maximum Male Models Ugh. They got drafted to Raw. Obviously, Dexter Lumis got drafted to Raw. Candice LeRae got drafted to Raw. And then, and Zoe Stark of NXT, she got drafted to Raw, which I thought was I think it's a great pick. She's been in NXT for a few years now, since like 2020, 2021. So, and I think she's definitely going to be a great addition to the women's roster. She's definitely immediately can be positioned as a top threat for the women's champion, whoever that is. Oh man, I just thought of something. If Io Sky wins the women's championship, the Raw Women's Championship at Backlash, and goes and gets herself transferred to Monday Night Raw, one of Io Sky's first feuds could be with her former tag team partner down in NXT, Zoe Stark. You could change Io Sky to a babyface, have her go up against Zoe Stark as a heel. They have history. They won the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships together. I just thought of that, and I thought, oh, that would be great feud. I mean, just considering the history between the two of them would make it interesting. Now, I don't know how it will be booked, but it just is something to look out for. And then, and J.D. McDonough was drafted to Raw. And I know that people have been saying that J.D. McDonough has the exact type of presentation that would fit perfectly within Judgment Day. And I know that, I can't remember which member teased it, but one of the members of Judgment Day teased that they were thinking of adding a new member to the group. And so, and with that being said, and with people making all these, all these comparisons about JD's persona and his look being similar to that of Judgment Day and how he could fit in just perfectly with Judgment Day, and now seeing that he's drafted to Monday Night Raw, and they have the potential to draft Judgment Day to Monday Night Raw, it would make sense. Plus, if you're thinking long-term booking and storytelling, if we get Survivor Series War Games again this year, there's your War Games match right there. LWO versus Judgment Day with Damian Priest, Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, and J.D. McDonough versus the LWO of Santos Escobar, Joaquin Wilde, Cruz del Toro, and Rey Mysterio. It practically writes itself. Excuse me. Damn, I have been live for 1 hour and 8 minutes. Man. I don't know what my personal record is when it comes to going live, but that has to be close to it. That has to be close to my record for going live. Let me just take some of these notifications, scroll off some of these notifications, and I really don't have that much left to talk about. That's all I really wanted to talk about was the draft. Well, this is a wrestling week in review, so I was going to talk about like AEW also and like NXT and Raw and stuff, but nothing really much to talk about except for the draft. Because that was basically the most important thing to happen this week in terms of wrestling. Oh, hey guys, you may not know this, but Naomi is now in Impact. Impact Wrestling has signed Naomi, Trinity Fatu. She is now a part of Impact Wrestling. She made her debut last night on Impact, and she will actually be having her first official Impact match tonight on, I guess it's a special Impact show, but I can't believe that. I cannot believe it. You haven't watched Masked Singer in a while. Well, I've been watching it with my mom. Me and my mom, we love watching it. This season has been interesting because not only did they stick with the format from last season, they did something extra this season with like the ding dong keep it on bell. Whereas in each group, one superstar, one Masked Singer gets to be saved from each group. And this past Wednesday, they had a Battle of the Saved where all three of the saved Masked Singers from each group got the chance. Each Masked Singer that was saved from each group got the chance to sing for a chance to rejoin the competition. Obviously, Medusa wound up winning, but they had Mantis go home first, which turned out to be Lou Diamond Phillips. For those of you who may not know, he was in a popular movie called La Bamba, which I've never seen, but my mom has the movie. I've just never seen it. And he was also in a movie called Young Guns and was, I guess, a popular actor from the 80s and even in the 90s. Recently, his most recent thing that I've seen him in was a TV show on Fox called I can't remember what the name of the show was, but I know what it was because I watched it. And then they had Gargoyle, which turned out to be an NFL player. LA Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen, and he was singing pretty good. For an athlete. But that's it. I don't have much else to talk about, so I guess I'm just going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely have a lot of fun doing this. I have a lot of fun doing this, and I hope to be doing this for a long time. And so I guess, oh please, I hope to be doing this for a long time. What? What are you talking about, Aaron? But I do expect to be doing this for a long time, but going live. But guys, I just want to say thank you all for joining. To everybody who might still be here, thank you for coming, and I will see you hopefully for the next live stream. I don't know when that will be. What? Nobody on here is named Tyler. I don't know who you're talking about, Aaron, but thanks everybody for coming, and I guess I'm guessing until next time, peace. Bye, guys. I will see you next time. Don't know when that will be, but be on the lookout, and peace.